Welcome into another episode of the Story World Podcast. Steve Schramm here, your boy Al. What's up, Al?
Doing well, Steve. How about you, sir?
Man, good. We're raring and ready to go, as
Have
they
a fun
say.
episode ahead of us tonight.
Yeah,
A little bit different, a little bit more relaxed. Why don't you tell us what's happening?
yeah. So, what we're gonna do is an experiment that can fail massively,
Will.
and and so here's the thing. So we thought it would be kind of fun to create. We talked about this a little bit in the last episode, a rating system, so that we knew how to rate the movies that we review from time to time on the podcast, right? So we do our movie nights and then we come back to the next episode or so and talk about them. And we've done some great ones. Knives Out, Space Cowboys, The Prestige, Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. We've done a lot of really good movies. And the thing is we don't know what the rating system is going to look like. So we kind of thought, which we might end up erasing everything we're saying, but we kind of thought it might be fun to come up with the rating system like live and in color, and you could just kind of enjoy this part of the journey with us. So I think the plan is to somehow come up with a rating system from 1 to 10. I suggested that 10 just be the Nick Cage masterpiece, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I don't think Alex is quite on board with that, but it is a consideration. I think if that's a 10, then we kind of know where everything else fits. Anyway, the goal is to come up with a rating system, rate the movies that we've watched so far, and then that'll be it.
Sounds good to me. I think you're onto something with the Nick Cage thing. I think that 10 should just be Nick Cage. So if you have a meter, 0 to 10, there's no 10. It goes 9, face of Nick Cage. I think that should be 10.
And then any movie that Nick Cage is in gets the automatic Nick Cage.
It doesn't matter what movie.
Doesn't matter what movie.
It's Nick Cage. It's been Nick Caged.
And so it wins.
Yeah.
That sounds like a great freaking good idea.
Yes.
It's a Baptist. I just said mother freaking.
Easy.
Anyway, easy.
Do we want to go on a 1 to 10 scale? So here's the thing that I'm seeing too is obviously we'll probably watch some terrible movies, but those will probably be few and far between. We'll probably focus on good movies that we both really like. So chances are we probably won't see a movie that will rate like a 1, 2, 3, or 4, just because we just probably won't watch any movies that bad. Chances are we just want to skip one.
Right.
Watch.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe we should just still stick with 1 through.
You know what? No, I'm thinking 5. I'm thinking 5.
I like a 5. I like a 5 scale.
I like this. You normally think of like a 5-star rating, and in a 5-star rating, like a 1 is still pretty bad, but like, I don't know, a 1 doesn't mean like in a 5 scale, like a 1 doesn't mean it's like, even a 1 isn't like awful. Like, I mean, I guess a 0 would be awful. I don't know. I mean, a 1 would still be pretty bad, but like a 2, right? A 2 is not like the worst disaster movie even that you've ever seen, probably. Like a 2 is still like, okay, it mostly sucked, but there were some respectable parts to it. So it's not
scrape along some things. Yes.
Yeah, right. It's not like we'll never have a 1 or a 2 in the course of our entire existence.
Yeah, right. Anyway. I agree. So let's do the 1 through 5. We're just gonna.
Cool.
Are we gonna do stars, or are we gonna do something else? Are we gonna have slabs of meat? I mean, what's the deal here?
Ooh. Oh yeah, like a 1 is like Spam.
Yes.
Right. Yes, you know what I'm saying?
Yes. A 2 could be like turkey bacon. Whether you like it or hate it.
Wait. Stop.
Okay.
Please, I have to create a graphic for this, like as soon as possible. Okay. Please tell me that we can call this the meat-o-meter.
Yeah.
The meat-o-meter.
Absolutely. Meat-o-meter. The meat-o-meter.
This is amazing. This is my favorite thing ever.
We can do it for anything. It doesn't have to relate to movies. It can relate to
Look, if Rotten Tomatoes could do it, we could do this. Yes. I'm just saying.
I think it
was more. I think
it was more well known for throwing tomatoes at things that suck rather than raw meat. But the meat-o-meter still has a place in history. I think it's going to be a thing.
It's at least going to be a thing for the 2 people who record and listen to this podcast.
Yes, absolutely. The 2 audience members. All right.
So I'm making a note in our notes. So the meter. So now we need a scale. So a 1.
Wait, should 1 be tofu? And then maybe 2 is meat.
Is tofu even meat? I don't know the answer.
No, but that's why I think it should be 1. It's 1 star. It's really not good at all.
Oh, wow.
It's questionable whether it should be made. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I was gonna say.
Maybe we're already breaking
So,
our rule. Maybe
it
we shouldn't do it.
tofu is like that fake meat, right?
It's fake meat. Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
it's
Is
fake.
it so but let me okay, so wait, is given the range of options,
Yes.
is tofu or, like, the impossible or is it like the same thing, like the
Oh yeah.
impossible meat is like, which one is maybe more I'm not familiar enough with tofu to make a judgment, so you be the decider. Is it tofu or impossible
I think
meat?
that we should put impossible meat down there because it's a direct imposter. When people are eating tofu, they know what they're
Right.
getting. For impossible meat, the first time I saw it, I was like, impossible meat, that sounds pretty good. And then when I realized it wasn't meat, I was pretty ticked off. So yeah,
Cool.
I think
Okay.
impossible meat, number one.
I like that.
I like your idea. I think two should be Spam because Spam has some redeemable qualities. If you fry it up real
So if
good
you fry it, yeah, right,
and put it
exactly.
in like maybe 10 pounds of rice and mix it around. And I think
Okay.
just, just to kind of spread out the taste and so,
Okay.
I like that.
Okay,
Um,
I like that. So
3.
so a 3. Now, is Spam too close to, like, bologna, like fried bologna, or is that actually, like, a lot better? Could we,
Mm.
um
Probably
or
around the same level.
it's around the same level? Okay, so never
I
mind.
would think so.
So we'll just go possible meat and then Spam, and then number 3 so is number 3 maybe the turkey bacon? Is that
I would think so
or
because
no? Yeah?
now we're dealing with a lot of meats here, but I think turkey bacon is good 'cause I like turkey bacon, but it's not my go-to. Like, if it's there, I will enjoy it, and I'll be, "Okay, that was good." But I'm not gonna
Oh,
go
right,
at
exactly.
yeah. I
That's how
think
I feel about it too. Like, I would eat
le
turkey bacon, but
let's at least put it there as a placeholder. I think turkey bacon is pretty good for 3.
okay,
I don't know,
okay.
though. Maybe. Are you thinking of something else?
Mm. Okay. What I
How
love this.
about
This is so much fun. Okay. This is the best episode of our podcast ever. I'm
right,
declaring it right
absolutely.
now. What's cool about this is once we're done, we're literally gonna have the option to compare these movies to Impossible Meat, Spam, and Turkey
Yeah.
Bacon. This is
Yeah.
gonna be awesome. All right.
You know what I'm thinking? There's so much meat out there, I think this is gonna turn into a 20-point scale, and we're
Oh
just
my
gonna have to
gosh, it really could. It really could.
how about this?
So,
Instead of going to 3, how about we work backwards? What would be 5? Like, what
well,
would be cream
so
of the crop?
that's where I was going.
Okay.
Okay. So here's the question. S because when I think of a great meat as well, I know I like ribs a lot, but, like, the question is like, I know a lot of times, like, the full rack of ribs, for example, is, like, the most expensive or one of the most expensive,
Gotcha.
if not the most expensive meat on the menu, but it's probably around there pretty close with filet mignon, although you'll get a lot less filet for the same price as you will for the ribs. So,
Yeah.
in other words, do we wanna keep it mostly in the steak family? Because so then it would look like 3 would be turkey bacon, right? 4 would probably be like hamburger or like
Yes. Yeah.
a good like an Angus burger, right?
Yeah.
And then 5 would be like
Juicy
filet
steak.
mignon or like a nice
Yeah.
juicy steak or just whatever. Or do we wanna go like number 3 burger and then like steak number 4 and then ribs 5 or vice versa. So
No,
this is the tough questions that we
I
have to
like your
answer.
idea. I actually really like putting 3 down. Heck, we could maybe even skip turkey bacon and just put bacon there because I think, at least for me, it progresses
Mm,
bacon, turkey bacon, even some sausage, all that. And then after that it goes, I just love a freaking good burger. I love
right,
a juicy
yeah.
burger. And then 5 could be whether you specifically put filet or you put, like juicy steak or, well cooked or however you want to word it, steak should be that number 5.
Okay. So we can just keep it we
I
can
like
just keep it
bacon at
yeah,
3.
okay, so spam, bacon, um, burger, we just keep
Yep.
it simple, and then steak, right? That's
I
kinda
love
the
it.
idea,
Yep,
right?
perfect.
Yep,
Yep. Impossible
yep.
meat, spam, bacon, burger, steak. I think
This is
that's a
amazing.
perfect list.
This is amazing. Here's the thing, it's actually very helpful because I think I will, in some strange way, be
Yeah,
able be able to more accurately identify these movies with how I feel about particular cuts of meat
absolutely,
that I would be able to
absolutely.
put an arbitrary number. I can't
Yeah,
believe these words are leaving my mouth, but this is truly how I feel.
yes.
So,
Now,
this is exciting.
what is your favorite, like, meat? Is it the ribs, like a rack of ribs? Like, that's something you can't resist?
Mm, mm. I'll tell you why that's a hard one for me. Because, by the way, speaking of pigeon forwards, which we were speaking of before we hit
Yep.
record, Corky's barbecue, fantastic ribs. They have pork rinds. We need to
We al
talk. It's
we
really
almost
good.
we almost got that, but I don't know why we decided not to, but we're gonna get that
Okay,
next.
their ribs are life changing, and their pork rind appetizer is also
Just
really
let
amazing. I'm serious. It's
change
really
your
good.
life around.
Yeah. So, the reason why this is difficult for me to answer is because, um, a lot of times, like literally yesterday, um, I got steak, but like if they don't put barbecue sauce on, which uh, I don't eat barbecue sauce unless
That's
I'm cheating on my diet, right? And so if they don't have a good dry rub, which Corky's does, if they don't have a good dry rub, then the ribs are typically just okay.
I
In
gotcha.
the absence of a good barbecue sauce, okay? So this is my problem. Um, I don't know, I have a hard time choosing between the ribs and the steak. I think the ribs get the edge if I'm legit having it with either barbecue sauce or a fantastic dry rub. Otherwise, the steak is probably the top of the line for me, so
I think I've told you this before, but ribs are very hit and go with me, and more often than not, I get ribs that are okay versus ribs that are
yeah.
great. When I do hit ribs though that are great, they are hard to beat.
Mhm.
But, as a
Oh,
whole,
yeah.
I agree that the steak like, I'd rather have a steak or that perfect burger over the ribs, but again, when you hit that 10 out of 10 rib, it's hard to beat. It
Exactly,
but it's just
exactly.
a lot of places just seem to ruin ribs for me. I don't know, just a lot of times when I eat ribs, I'm
Yeah.
just like, it's okay."
It's like I wouldn't like the place I went to yesterday, for example, and got the ribs. I would never get the ribs there again. Now they don't get me wrong, they were good. They were really good. But they were dry. They didn't have the sauce, they didn't have any seasoning. And so like you could tell like the meat was good. It was good quality meat. It had good potential.
Yeah,
But in the absence of the barbecue and they didn't have a good dry rub, it
yeah,
just it was it
yeah.
it wasn't there. So anyway,
You might just realize
there you
about
go.
this list too, it probably follows an exact bell curve of the amount of times that we will eat these kinds of meats versus the number of movies that they directly correlate the number of movies in each category. Does that make
This is
sense? So
interesting.
so we're probably never gonna eat an Impossible Burger. On the in by the same token, how often are
True.
we gonna watch a one-star movie? Probably hardly ever. Maybe
That's
maybe
true.
try it because someone, like, recommended to us. We're like, "Okay, we gotta at least take a test." But think how
Mhm.
many, like, bacon and burger movies we'll probably watch. Probably quite a bit.
Exactly.
And
No, I
that's
love
probably the
that.
meat
It's
that we'll
very
eat the
true.
most. So it's actually correlates, I think, pretty strong.
Yeah, no, it's very true because the steak definitely happens more rarely. Like, it
Yeah.
happens, but it
I still
happens
eat
more
it.
rarely, at
Oh,
least for me.
I eat it more than, like, a Spam or an Impossible meat, but definitely less
Oh,
than, like,
yeah,
a burger or bacon.
100%. Oh, this is great.
Alright.
I love
So,
this. I can't
I
wait to
think
title this YouTube video and put this thumbnail together. I'm
either
so
way,
excited.
this is gonna be the one. This is the episode where, the view of Skywalker it's all
It
about
it
food.
all it all takes off from here. We'll have 3 listeners instead of 2.
We'll have 3. I told my mom about this episode.
Yeah, well, if we get 4, we'll double our listenership, I think. So,
Yeah, that's all we need is double.
check that out, man, pretty good. So well,
Alright.
I'm
Well,
now
shall we get
very
to it?
excited to rate these
Yes.
movies.
Let's
Yes,
really start.
absolutely.
All right. So let's just go to the first one. And I guess we'll
Mm.
probably say a word or two about the movies, but we've already done analysis on it. So go back, read those reviews. This is the official meter stamp of approval
Mhm.
though by Steve Schramm and your boy Al. So Steve, take it away with the first movie we actually watched and your movie you recommended, Rocket Man.
Wow, Rocket Man. Gosh. Ah, okay, now here's a question, okay, in our rating system, are we are we trying to think objectively, or are we allowing ourselves? Because 'cause we're each giving them a rating, are we
Yeah.
allowing ourselves to think subjectively? Here's the main reason
Yeah.
I asked this, because Rocket Man for me has nostalgic things that don't allow me to be objective about the rating I would give it unless I'm forcing myself to go there.
Yeah, right.
So
I like looking at both of those aspects. I would say if we had gone the route of we are a sole reviewer, podcast, then we
we'd
definitely
have to
be
go
subjective. But because
objective.
you and I each have different personality, and this is just a fun thing we do. We love movies, our own different kind of movies. Let's just do it subjectively so that we can just, whatever we want.
Mm. Okay, cool. Now this is fun. The other thing I would say is I wonder if it's ever possible to have, like, I mean, like, in real rating systems, you could have, like, a 4.5 stars out of 5 because, like, couldn't you then have, like, an Angus burger, right? That was kinda like a little bit of like a steak,
Yes, yes.
or we just so anyway,
Let's just do
um,
the hard numbers at least for now.
we'll just do the hard numbers for now.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Okay, we'll do the hard numbers for now. Okay. Given that, I I am gonna give Rocket Man I'm gonna give Rocket Man a a 4, a 4, a
Okay,
4.
okay.
Yes, a 4. I think I have to give it a 4. The nostalgic the nostalgic points are just there for me. It's not an objectively fantastic movie,
Mhm.
but I do think it is hilarious, and it keeps me laughing, and what else was it ever trying to accomplish?
I
It
agree,
keeps
yeah.
me laughing. Some of it this last time I watched it with you, I kinda, like, realized how stupid some of it was, and so that puts it closely into bacon cat territory for me. Um, even though I love bacon. Again, I love bacon, it's just not,
Yes.
it's not a burger, it's not a good
It's a
juicy, you
yeah,
know?
I got it.
It enhances a burger, but anyway, so I'm at
That
a
makes
4.
sense.
I'm at a
That
4
seem
with Rocket Man.
I thought that you were either gonna go with a 4 or 5, a burger or steak, so that makes sense. I know
Yeah.
you love that movie. I
I
know
know,
you
I
love it.
do, I love it so
It's a
much,
good one.
I wanna give it a steak, but I think the part of me that has to be somewhat objective about
Somewhat
this just
objective, yeah.
it won't let me give Rocket Man a steak. I can't
I
do it,
I
so
think my, subjectivity aligns pretty well with the objectiveness of it. I wanna say I'm gonna give it a bacon, which is a 3. And I think,
yeah,
because the thing that I really liked about that movie, and I forget a lot of the specifics just 'cause it's been a while since we watched it, but I
yeah,
remember laughing so much harder than I thought I would. And,
yeah,
it
yeah,
really took me by surprise. So I actually think, obviously, like what you said, it's there to make people laugh. It's not there to tell a overly, like edge of your seat story or anything like that. But I think it does a great job making you laugh, and it's just dumb, and that's what it's there for. Um,
yeah.
and so I really, yeah, so I really appreciate it for that. So I'm gonna give it a bacon.
Okay, I love this. Let's take a timeout really quick. I think we need, like, 3 to 5, uh, scoring criteria. Okay, not that we have to be overly scientific about this, I'm just saying, like, I would love to be able to think about, like, for example, um, story, right? The actual storytelling,
Mm,
um, the,
uh,
emotional I don't know what to say, emotional response, right? Because 'Cause I'm thinking, if I'm thinking about, a Rocket Man as a movie to, like, change my life or be inspirational, it is not that, but it is but it does get me laughing a lot, and so it's very
yeah,
emotional. I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking this, but, like, as I'm thinking about this, I'm just like, "Yeah, but how are we ever gonna define what a 5 is?" This is what I was asking myself, right? So, we can even, use this as a transition into The Prestige, right? Because I really feel like The Prestige is objectively up there, like, I don't wanna give
yeah,
away the farm here, but it might be a steak. I mean, The
yeah.
Prestige is a fantastic movie. Why? That's the
Mm.
question. Why is it so I'm trying to ask, why is that such a good movie?
Are you
And,
talking
like,
about
are there
addressing certain subcategories to the movies too?
well, yeah,
Kinda, in a
not
way.
rating them that way, I'm just trying to
No,
think, like, if we're gonna say that it's a high 4 or a 5 or
I
whatever, like,
gotcha.
what makes it that way? I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud now,
It'll
but,
probably make it that way in each of our own minds too. So I think that when we do, and obviously when we go through each of our reviews in the future for specifically, we'll be able to focus on that one. But looking at these, we can each give our little summary on why we think it deserves that rating, touching
yeah,
on all those points.
yeah. So, I mean, I guess, do you think would it help you to be able to point to, like, a list of 3 to 5 things and be like, "Okay, on these things it's" or no, you're saying we don't need to do that? What are you
I think, I think it could be good
Okay.
to touch on each of them. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so, so help me figure out what these would be then, right? Am I right in thinking, like, storytelling, right? Just objectively, like, the storytelling
Objectively,
of the
objectively, how the
movie.
storytelling. Yep. Emotional
Yeah.
response is good.
Does that make sense? Okay,
Yep. I
emotional
like that.
response.
I
Character development? Is that another thing to
I would just put characters. because maybe a
Characters.
movie might not necessarily want to focus on the character. You know, yeah. So just
Okay,
characters.
characters.
Another thing I would do too is purpose or I don't know if there's a simple way to shorten it, but does the movie reach, say if Rocket Man is seeking to be a funny movie, straight up. If
Mhm.
it's not
Oh, yeah.
funny, it fails at that. So does the movie actually succeed at what it's supposed to do? Does that make sense?
Ooh, yes, there's gotta be a good way to put this.
Like purpose seems too simple. I feel like that there's another word for it and I'm just totally blanking out.
Like, I'm thinking about intent, direction,
Yeah, intent is one. Any of those really, there's a
I'm
word
gonna
that really.
write I don't know if this makes sense. So, I think of movies as like categories, like,
Okay,
I don't know
yep.
if that like, so category intent, I don't know if that makes sense, but, like, like,
Mm,
if like yeah, like, if Rocket Man is trying to be a comedy, it gets at least a 4 out of 5 in that particular
yeah.
category, you know what I'm saying?
Yep, I
Like,
like that.
if it's intending to be
I like it.
yeah. Okay, so storytelling, emotional response, characters, category intent, or whatever that is, and then is there one
I
more thing maybe?
I don't know if this necessarily, I guess it kinda relates to storytelling. Oh, yeah, this kinda goes to storytelling in emotional response, but, like, payoff/lasting impact. Like, is it something that you think about, or is it something that really draws you into
Ooh.
afterwards? Again, maybe that's crossing categories there, but that's the only other thing I can think of. I think those 4 are great. Maybe we don't need another one. I was
Well,
gonna put down.
it's like, um, it's like the difference between Rocket Man and, like, The Green Mile.
Mm.
Uh,
And maybe we shouldn't do
obviously,
that
they're
because maybe some movies are not out to do. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
well, yeah, that's what I was just, getting ready to say is maybe that actually fits under category intent, right? Because, like, the intent
That's
of the
true. Yeah,
comedy isn't necessarily to, like, make you think for the rest of life,
yeah, that's
whereas
true.
movies like Interstellar are kinda that way,
Yep,
like, I'm gonna be
yep.
thinking about this for a long time,
I was
you know?
also the other thing that I thought of was score, but at the same time, um, like that goes under kind of emotional response because some movies might not want to have a lot of music in it, and some movies might want to. So I think that
Yeah.
kind
What about is there a
of
difference between plot and storytelling, or is it all the same is that the same thing?
I'd put it the same. You could even change storytelling to plot if you wanted to.
Okay. Yeah, I think I might actually.
'Cause storytelling can go like, how is the plot explained? Is it coherent? Does it make sense? Is it, you know,
Yeah.
I like that.
So plot, emotional response, characters, category intent. Yeah, right? I mean, that
I like that.
feels okay. Maybe if there's another one that comes up, we can talk about it,
I
but
like
those
that.
4 will be enough to keep moving through it, I think, right?
Perfect. I agree. Yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
Alright, cool, sweet.
All
Yay,
right.
this is fun. Okay.
All right. Keep on going, Steve.
Alright, so we got oops. We've got the prestige. The prestige. Okay.
Prestige.
Okay. Um,
Cool. Can you take
man.
this one away?
Yeah, you go first on this one. Yep.
So, maybe no surprise here. So I think, this has been kind of my favorite. I go back between 2 or 3 movies, but safe to say my favorite movie of all time. And I think it's, subjectively, yes, so, and even objectively, it's, a very powerful, great movie. I'm gonna have to give
Mhm.
it a stake rating, at least, from a subjective stance. I don't think
Yeah.
I'd be hard pressed if anyone could put it lower than a 4, unless, like, it just
Yeah.
falls totally outside of, like, your category of what you like to
Your
watch,
style
but
of movie.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the plot of The Prestige is just it really hooks you, and it's told very well, and even though it's confusing in all the right ways. It's supposed to make you
Mm.
feel confused along the way. You definitely feel an emotional pull from it, from the characters and some of the kinda dark things that happen in there, you're kinda tugged both ways, um, and even at the end, you feel an emotional, pull for some of the characters,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
character development is great, the characters are so strong, a lot of that has to do with the great acting, that was in it. And then it's weird, Christopher Nolan's movies, he kind of created his own kind of category for a movie, kind of
Yeah.
like time, I don't know, like time hopping. Specifically this one, I guess it's kind of like a crime mystery movie, I guess you would kind of put it in.
Yeah.
It's in its own type of category, but whatever category you want to put it in, Christopher Nolan, I think nailed it. Really knows. So I'm giving it a steak 5 star.
Yep, yep. I'm actually gonna give it a steak as well.
Ooh, Steve.
I really think it was like, and even having only seen it once, like,
Yep.
it made me think the plot was obviously ingenious. Like, all
Mhm.
like, there were, like, 3 or 4, I feel like, big reveals all stacked up near the end of the movie that were just, like, absolutely huge. It had me on my seat. It had me, guessing, just wondering what was up. On the category, yeah, I was kinda thinking the same thing, like, how do you even categorize that? He almost created his own category, and so he
Yeah.
gets to be, as we call in marketing, literally the category king. Um,
Yep.
created the category, and nobody else has done it better than him, arguably. Um, yeah, I think it would be an injustice to give that one a burger. I really do. I think that's a steak movie, so
Awesome.
congrats to
I'm
Christopher
glad
Nolan
that
on that one.
I'm glad you liked it as much as I did too. It wouldn't have been,
Yeah,
I think a much of a bummer it would have been if we watched it and you're like, "Oh, man, it just didn't do it for me."
yeah.
That would have
I
been
think
a bummer.
I think that one lived up to its expectations for me. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, good deal. All right, Steve, you can start off with this one.
Sweet.
This is a tough
Interstellar.
one. This is a tough one.
Excuse me. Oh, man. This really is a tough one for me, I'm not gonna lie. Interstellar is really, really tough.
I thought of something, Steve.
Um,
Before you go on to this, I thought of
okay, yeah,
something.
sure.
I don't know why this isn't letting me. There we go. Except I don't want that. You know what? It's not letting me do it. So I'm going to put it down here in option. I think that we should have a 4.5 grade for those ones that are just on the edge, but good enough. Be burger with bacon. Because who doesn't like a
Burger.
good, or a
Wait,
bacon burger? A bacon
wouldn't
burger.
that wouldn't that be a wait, is that are you in 3.5 star territory or 4.5
I'm
star?
at four and
Because
a half. So you have both the burger and the bacon on top. And it's about as good as you can get, except for this top level here.
okay, okay, yeah, I guess so. Cool.
Unless you don't like
I
it.
Well, no, I just thought I thought maybe in between the 4 and the 5 would be more like a hamburger steak, because that is a thing too. But I
Oh.
agree though, but I see what you're saying with the bacon burger
Mhm.
as well, so I'm with you there. So because I love a good, I mean, for me, a burger almost just is a bacon burger because that's how I roll.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true. I see. I see.
so okay, all right, cool. So on our document here, I'm gonna do it this way. I'm gonna grab that. We'll go here. I'm gonna tab over.
Perfect.
Right? That's kinda what
Bacon
that
burger.
might,
Yep, I like
so
it.
something like that, right? So a bacon burger. Okay, okay, man, that kinda makes it harder, I'm not gonna lie. Alright, so for Interstellar, so let me just talk it out loud a little bit. So
Yeah.
Interstellar, um, I feel like the plot was awesome. I like a lot of the, and again, when I say plot, I am thinking too of like the actual storytelling throughout. Like I love how the movie starts where like it kind of took me a while to figure out if we were like in the Wild West or in the
Yeah.
future,
Yeah.
and that was kind of crazy. Um, so I definitely think um the plot is fantastic. Some of the like sciency stuff in it, like I have two problems with it. Some of it just really jumped the shark near the end for me when it was like when he was like looking out through a bookcase and it was like some
Mhm.
weird random other dimension of time or whatever. And then like some of the um um like I feel like some of the category intent might have been a little bit off because of like, I think they were really trying to go for, like, super believable science, but again, I just couldn't get away from the fact that, like, when I watched scientists evaluate it, they were like they really
Mhm.
had some problems with it, and so um, that was causing maybe a little bit of an issue for me. Um, um, so this is really this is actually really, really tough. I think, though, I think it's a I think it's a burger. I'm gonna give it a
Yeah,
burger. I'm gonna be honest. I was really teetering between bacon or burger, and not the other direction.
really. Yes.
I was really kind of teetering down to a bacon, um, subjectively, right?
Yeah,
Because of some of those elements. But I think objectively, it is just a really good movie, and it's really the storytelling and the characters. Um, and, there's a huge emotional response in that movie too with
mhm,
the dynamic between the dad and the daughter.
yep,
That probably is what pushes it to burger for me. So I can't go steak. I don't even think I could go bacon burger. But the actual, like, emotional, like, what the movie does to you outweighs the problems that I have with it that would make it a bacon. So I'm gonna give it
yeah.
a solid 4, a solid burger, and, that's where I land on it.
I think my reasoning on the movie and my analysis is kind of, it's kind of the same as you. I think that, yeah, the highlights of this movie are the characters and the emotional response, to it. Like we used to the highlights, if you just think of all the moments that really strikes you, like, pretty hard when he sees his daughter grown up because of, the time sink
Oh,
or when
yeah,
he
that's
comes up.
crazy.
And then just having to say goodbye to his daughter, thinking that that he will see her again, but not knowing fully, and, just the whole progress of the movie. It's kind of an exhausting movie. It really takes
It
you
is
for a loop.
exhausting. It is exhausting.
It
Yeah.
really is. Because there's so many of those moments. It doesn't just wind up to one big emotional ending that you're expecting. It's just hits you and hits you and hits you.
Mhm.
Um, and then the the action sequences and the intense moments that are filmed in space, I think that the way that they filmed it and showing no sound while in space, as well as
Yeah.
the music that just kind of pulls it in is terrific. I think there's a lot of levels that it hits on that perfect scale, and it does it really well. Um, this is actually one of those movies where it's just a few steps below Prestige for me of how much I like it because I just really enjoy it so much. But same as you, every time even though I love the movie, every time it gets to the end where he goes into the black hole, and I'm definitely okay with Christopher Nolan doing what he did with him communicating with his daughter in the past through
Yeah,
gravity
yeah.
and all that. I'm okay with it. Like I think that there's some creative liberty with stuff that you don't know and everything. But every
Yeah.
single time, I almost want it to skip forward 10 minutes to get to the last part of the movie, which I think is great.
Right.
I think that those like that middle 15 minutes there where it does that, it's cool, but I'm just like, okay, let's just get back to kind of quote unquote reality where he can see his daughter and it comes to the end. Um,
Yeah.
and so for
Yeah.
me, I selfishly, I made this 4.5 category because that's where it kind of hits for me. Sometimes I think it's a stake for me because I love it that much, but there's always that one bit where the objectiveness kind of comes out and it just feels a little off.
What it is about that, but I feel the same way. That 15 minutes of that movie just
Yeah.
irks me. I don't know why. I'm just like, I feel like the storytelling was so good up to that point, and then, like, at that I don't know, that one scene, which it kinda stinks because that's supposed to be, like, the climactic scene, really, of the
Yeah.
movie where, like, the actual contact is happening, like, you finally figure out what was going on in that room. But, like, even though that's supposed to be what, what storytellers call, like, the obligatory scene, it's like the
Yeah.
climactic scene of the movie, it jumps the shark so much to me
Yeah.
on the actual delivery of it that it irks me. And I feel like I should make this point too because, one who is familiar with both The Prestige and Interstellar, might wonder why I don't have the same scientific
Yeah.
criticisms of The Prestige, right? Because The Prestige also kind of went
Yeah.
into, like, some historical guessing, like, some actual
Yeah.
scientific stuff with, like, Tesla. And to me, I'll explain my reasoning there. There was even a book written by the scientist who consulted on Interstellar called The Science of Interstellar. And so very clearly there was a effort to be very scientific in the like to be as truly scientific with some creative liberties taken as possible um with Interstellar. And to me, it just didn't really live up to that. Whereas I don't think they were trying to do that at all with The Prestige. I think it was actually pretty clever how they took a historical figure who was known for somewhat controversial ideas and for being very, very smart and like taking a historical fiction approach to his work. And I think it's what they
Mhm.
did in The Prestige. I
Yeah,
don't think they were trying to be like, oh yeah, this could have happened or this even could happen this way or whatever. I think they were just trying to leverage some really cool history into a fictional scientific thing. The point of the movie wasn't to be a science thing. The point of
yeah,
the movie was kind of the crime, mystery, thriller piece
yeah,
of it, and then the historical fiction science piece of it sort of was a point of leverage in that. It wasn't like the point, and so that's
yeah.
why I'm not criticizing The Prestige in the same way, if that makes sense.
It seems so weird criticizing Nolan on that part because even though it's not as exciting and as climactic as what you would hope, it does tie the movie together. It does kind of link. It's pretty neat how it links what happened at the beginning of the movie. You're trying to figure it all out. I mean, I don't know. I couldn't make it better. I think he did the best that he could do, but
Sure, sure.
it's just still weird. It just still stands out.
Yeah,
But good. So I think that's good.
cool.
All right. Fourth one,
Alright,
Space Cowboys.
Space
I'll take
Cowboys,
this one away.
you go first, yep,
I
let's
was
go.
I was very impressed with this movie. I remember going into it. I don't know if I forget exactly again because it's been a while. I think you almost kind of gave me like a warning, like, "Hey, it's great. It's kind of not what you're thinking. Just watch it." You're like, "Just watch it," and it definitely was not what I was thinking. I didn't think it would be as funny as it was, and I didn't think it would be as serious as it was. It kind of
Mhm.
it impressed me on a lot of different levels. It was sometimes I get confused between when I laughed harder at Rocket Me and this one because they're both kind of related to space. But I remember getting
Yeah.
quite a few good laughs in this movie, and I remember kind of being, I guess you could say, at the edge of my seat. Really wondering what was going to happen at the end of it. So
Mhm.
I think everything was very solid in this movie. The plot was there. I forget specifically now. There were a couple parts that kind of made me kind of question what was happening, but overall, very, very solid plot. I just definitely, felt, pretty emotionally connected to the characters. I felt that they were real and they really wanted to complete their mission, and
Mhm.
that was good. Characters were really funny. They got a great group of actors to play the parts. And then I
Mhm.
think overall, again, solid on whatever category is going to. I think it spread some humor in there really well, nailed the story. Overall, I think I would give this a burger 4 rating.
Yeah.
I really liked it. I think it's a really solid.
Nice.
I can see how
Yeah.
some people would watch this and definitely not give it that higher rating. I think it does fall into you kind of have to be inclined to like these kinds of movies dealing with space, some funny humor
Yeah,
there. But for me, it
for
definitely.
sure. Cool, cool. Okay. In the in potentially the surprise upset of the night, I am giving this a steak.
Oh, Steve,
I am
man,
giving Space
you
Cowboys
love this movie.
a steak. A steak. I love this movie. I'll tell you why. Um, there's actually a lot I could say. Yes, admittedly, there is some bias in nostalgia for me because I love this movie. It's like a 2001 movie. I've seen it a bunch of times. I just love it. But the last time when I watched it with you, like again, I never have really watched movies with a critical eye until I met you. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean it in a good way. Like I'm not just looking to enjoy the movie. I am, but I'm also like looking at the story and like trying to get
Yeah,
a sense for like how good the movie is. And I'm actively trying to poke holes, at least a little bit in them as well. And the thing about Space Cowboys is with the exception of one scene, I can't name something that I find wrong with the movie.
mm,
Okay. And so if I can't find something wrong with the with the movie, it's pretty hard not to give it the highest rating. And the only thing is like at the very end, the last scene, we talked about this in our review and stuff where I honestly think they're just um it's like the main like plot has been exposed and I think they're just kind of like it's one of the last scenes in the movie and they're just kind of like rushing to get it done with, I
yeah,
think. But it's like it's like the whole thing where, like, the Russian guy or whatever, like, the guy who's, like, forget his name, but the general, the guy who's, like, at the head of the program at NASA or whatever, is, like, he just could, like, take him away, right, to, like, the Russian guy who he had been, like, co-conspiring with or
mm,
whatever the whole time to have. to get this, um, to secretly get this, Cold War relic missile launcher thing repaired. Like, he just kinda, like, whisks the guy away, and there doesn't seem to be, like, any negative consequences for, like, this whole conspiracy thing with the director of NASA or whatever he is.
Right.
So, that was weird to me. That's literally the only thing. Otherwise, the characters are phenomenal. I was just thinking when I was trying to figure out my rating while you were talking a little bit on this of, like,
Yeah, the characters
how
were solid.
well
Yeah.
they did so much
Yeah.
character backstory and development, like, and the little nuances of each of the and they had, like, 5
Yeah.
or 6,
They had like
like,
5 main characters. Yeah.
main characters to do this with, and I think in the time allotted, they just did such a fantastic job of that. Not only that, but the movie is an entire emotional roller coaster, like, arguably the funniest guy in the movie, like, sense of humor wise, is also, like, the one who has the most tragedy happen
Mm.
to him. And there's, like, always the little hints of, like, jealousy that Frank has
Yeah.
for Hank, like, comes out in various times throughout the progression of the movie, and, like, the little things about, like, the eyesight on the old horny guy,
Mhm.
like, all this
Yeah.
there's just all these things that work together, so the characters are great. The category intent to me is spot on. It's a funny movie. It takes you for an emotional roller coaster. The plot is believable, right?
Yeah.
The plot is believable.
It is.
It seems plausible that this Cold War relic thing that needed to be prepared, it can't come down because then they would find out that they were harboring these missiles up there. And I've been alive long enough to know that government conspiracy can happen, and I could totally see some head of NASA conspiring with some Russian dude to, like, you know, conceal this. And I don't know. I'll be honest. I can't find that much wrong with
Mm.
it, and I think there's so much good in it that I am forced to give it a nice big old juicy lean steak.
See, that's what surprised me about it was how good it was because, like, when I read the summaries of it and synopsis, just the quick thing, here's like stuff that I came upon. When a retired engineer, Frank Corbin, is called upon to rescue a failing satellite, he insists that his equally old teammates accompany him into space. Based on that alone, it gives it it presents it to be like a silly movie. Like you're expecting
Right.
it to be
Yeah.
kind of
Mhm.
dumbed down, kind of
Yeah.
stupid. But like
It's
what
nothing
you
that's
said,
log line. Yeah.
yeah, it really isn't. When you get into it, the plot is like I said, very strong. I gave it a burger. I gave it a 4. I think it's has very fundamentally a lot of strong elements that make up a good story.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
100%. Oh, man.
Moving on.
Oh, no. How
The
do I
big
go
one.
first? How do I go first on this? Oh my gosh. We are we are finally to the unbearable weight of massive talent. Wow. I'm not gonna lie, I have no idea how to score this movie. I am I am at so much of a loss right now. The cate let's alright, I just gotta talk it out loud. So the category intent. What was the
Why don't
category?
why don't we go through this together? Let's go through each category together because
Okay,
I've kind of
let's
the
do that.
process it too. Yeah.
Okay, so let's start at the top then. We'll start it
Yeah.
with the plot. Let's start with the
Yeah.
plot, okay? My what do you it is a movie about Nick Cage making a movie, uh, starring Nick Cage.
That you
What do you do with that? What do you do what do
yeah.
I
So
mean,
yeah,
okay.
you have Nick you have Nick Cage playing himself, and in this universe, he is a failed actor, which some people say he is in real life.
Right.
And then
Not gonna lie. I I think okay, I can't decide whether this is plot or category intent, okay?
okay.
Category intent. This is literally it is a made up Nick Cage category.
It is
It
100%.
right? Isn't that
It's not
fair?
even like you could kind of categorize it as some type of weird metaverse thing, but it's different than that. It's a Nick Cage category.
It is a Nick Cage category. And so I what I'm trying to think through and process right now is are I don't wanna confuse plot with category intent, right? So, like,
Mhm.
objectively speaking, the plot of the movie, let's say it wasn't Nick Cage, a failed actor
Mm.
goes to an island and ends up making a movie about another. I don't know that the actual plot was very strong, but at the same time, a movie about Nick Cage,
Yes.
a ostensibly failed actor, you're making a movie where he is Nick Cage, the ostensibly failed actor. That is suddenly genius, and so I can't tell if
Well,
that's like a high category intent. What is that,
well,
Alex? Help
it
me.
kind of moves. Honestly, it kind of moves over to characters. E- Characters here almost envelops category, intent, and plot because the whole
Yeah.
movie is Nick Cage. So it really doesn't matter what the category is in the end. If it's a Nick Cage movie, I mean, that's just what it is. And then everything else comes second. Yeah, does that make sense? So like we said, I think the plot
You're
would
definitely right.
generally, according to the fundamentals, the plot would work, the category would work, stick Nick Cage into it, and all of a sudden you have something that just surpasses what any of those things are.
Okay, well, here's the thing. The only thing left other than that is emotional response, and I laughed my pants off the entire time because it was so well
Yeah.
executed. So if we're not careful here, we are landing pretty close to steak category, and yet I don't feel
But
like that is so let's ask this question. What was wrong, if anything, with this movie?
see, that's the thing is I'm sure that there were when I think about it, I'm gonna tell a kind of funny story first. When I first watched it, I watched it
Okay.
with my in-laws and my wife, and neither of them like Nick Cage. I think my father-in-law can take him or leave him, and
Yeah.
I laughed so hard through the whole thing, and it was just silence in the room around. And is at the end of it, the first thought I had was, I gotta watch this with Steve. Like we have to watch this. And then fortunately, it was like a week or two later, we watched it, and fortunately, I didn't know that Steve was a Nick Cage fan himself, and so that was kind of my experience with it. And yes, even the second time around, I cannot stop laughing at every part that you were supposed to that they wanted to make funny. It was hilarious from the beginning. Do you remember Nick Cage playing at the piano and then just like losing
Yeah.
his crap there? It was just so perfect. So when it
We
comes
wanna
to
watch it again right now.
oh, I need to. So when it comes to emotional response, I let me kind of put it this way. If you like Nick Cage, like if you would truly enjoy Nick Cage as an actor, it should get the response out of you that it intends for you to laugh and be
Especially
invested.
with the Easter eggs that were in there on
Yes,
from his
yes,
different movies
so
and
many.
stuff. I mean, it was very intentionally designed.
Yes, absolutely. Um, yeah.
Dadgummit.
So I think it's time to come up with the ratings, Dave. And you have to go first because it's your turn to go first. This may be so silly, but so good. Well, back to what you were saying. Try to think of something that that didn't land well in the movie. And
There
it's
was
hard to think of one.
It's really hard because here's the thing, everything that didn't land well, it made sense that it didn't land well. It's
Like,
like that was the it's like that was the point because that's what would
yes.
happen in a Nick Cage movie, you know? And so like it so
And not and also we kinda talked about it lightly, but specifically the relationship that he formed with his new friend there, Pedro Pascal, the actor's name, I forget his name in the movie, but what it was
yeah.
just it all of a sudden developed into this, like, buddy movie, and and
Right.
one of the best ones I've ever seen. It was so
Right.
good.
I have to give it a steak. I can't believe it. I can't believe we're gonna do that, but I have to. I can't find anything wrong with it. I have to give it a
I
steak. I mean, it could be a like if I were to give it a bacon burger, which I almost might, I could give it a bacon burger. I would only be doing so only because there is some part deep in my soul that feels like I couldn't give the movie a steak, and
exactly.
that wouldn't be true to myself. So I'm giving it a steak. I'm just
Uh,
doing it.
my reason is the same for you, also gave me a steak because yeah, well, like what you just
Nobody is
said,
ever gonna we literally just failed any chances of becoming a movie review channel, just
I
so you know. We
I
just that was the
well
final nail in the coffin.
even objectively, okay, if I was a hardcore film critic, like if I took my love of Nick Cage out of it, I could sit down, I could find some flaws, and I could give it an 8, 9 out of 10, do whatever the rating is. But the subjective side of me just loved the movie too much. I loved it too much. I could watch that,
Yep.
over and over, and I would just love it.
Yep.
So therefore,
Same.
this take I think is very appropriate. Um,
Yep.
anyway, on to
Yep.
the
I
next one,
totally agree.
and this next one is a tough one too. Knives Out. Um,
Yep.
it's a tough one for me because I've seen this movie around 10 times, and
Wow.
I love it every single time. Well, okay, so obviously the rating has to come last. The plot is excellent. I'm not a whodunit buff. There's so many whodunit movies I have not seen and books, but the ones that I do watch, I really am into. I enjoy them. I kind of and even working on my second book being somewhat like a whodunit, not in the extreme sense like this. So I'm definitely a fan
Right.
of the genre, and I think that the plot is very strong. It deceives where it needs to deceive, and in fact, it shows you what you think is almost too much at the beginning. And so I think that Ryan Johnson did a great job structuring that. The emotional response was great. I think you kind of really feel for the main character and kind of really want her to not get caught of what's happened. And you want bad people to get caught, and I think that so I think the emotional response is there. Characters are top notch. Oh my goodness. Each character is very
Mhm.
defined, specific. They have a backstory. Very strong characters. And even the side characters that you don't see too much, but the main ones are especially strong. And then the category 10, obviously who done it hits that on the head. I think that another thing, I guess kind of similar to Interstellar, the one thing that got me is I think the pacing is absolutely perfect up until like 3/4 of the way through. It kinda hits a stride where things start coming out about, what is it exactly? Like, the blood work, from the autopsy,
Yeah.
and for about 20 to 30 minutes, somewhere towards the end or just before the end, it hits a weird, almost, like, quicker pacing and things kinda happen jarringly and a
Yeah.
little fast, and maybe that's on purpose to kind of suck you in even more. Maybe it doesn't want you to notice some things, I'm not sure, but, I happen to notice that every single time I watch it. It's just something that doesn't take me out of it, I still think it's good, but it just doesn't seem to follow through with the meticulous pacing that is set out in the beginning. For me, I probably would give it a bacon burger. I think it's pretty near perfect,
Mhm.
just aside from a couple of missteps. I think in the end that just the pacing doesn't quite work for me the whole way. But a fantastic movie. But that's the rating I'm giving it.
Cool. Okay. So I'm really glad that you took the time to go through all that. I have to admit on this one, it's not that I don't remember the plot like I do. I remember what
Yeah.
happened, but having only seen it one time,
Yeah.
um, I don't remember as much of like the character development and like so. I have to admit that like I think my rating on this is going to be a little bit more gut based. I think I'm
Yep.
more so gonna be like, okay, when I think about my emotional experience watching that movie and then like the desire to watch it again, which meat does that just most closely,
Yeah. Yep.
sort of map to? I think is how I'm gonna have to think about it. I will go ahead and make the exception though of saying that I think the characters in the category of 10 were totally right on. Like I
Mhm.
totally got Clue vibes throughout the whole thing,
Y
which I love the movie Clue.
yeah.
Um, and so I loved that, and then the characters, like the detective guy, like, I was like, "Oh, man, this guy is just absolutely amazing." I don't know, the plot was good, the plot was definitely good, but I thought it was a little, like, um, I don't know, a little weird, like, a little weak, nah, I don't know. It's like I don't remember like, I remember enough to think that, like, I would have liked for it to be a little bit better. At the same time,
Yeah.
I don't remember quite enough to, like, point out, "Oh, it was that particular detail that I didn't like," although I think it mostly had to do with, like, the switching of the medicine and stuff, like, when the guy
Yeah.
actually died, like, that was all a little confusing to me, and, like, I just sometimes I feel like a movie is a little forced in the way that it goes in the way that, like, the plot plays out based on the nature of the inciting incident, and I feel like if she had just and again, like I said, I'm not remembering enough of it, but, like, I just kinda feel like if she had just been, like, honest about what happened up front, like, how much of all of that could have just been avoided. I don't know. I don't know. So, anyway,
Yeah.
it was all kinda so I'm gonna give it a bacon. I'm gonna give it a bacon,
Mhm.
and it's not because I actually think it was really good, and on a second watch where I could remember some more details, I'm inclined to think that I might even give it a burger or a bacon burger.
Mhm.
Um, because I do remember like experiencing the movie and thinking, "Oh man, that was really good," and being even stoked for the next one that was coming
Yeah,
out. And I've heard some things. I haven't seen the new, but I've heard that it's maybe not as good as the first one.
I'll
I
have to
remember
watch
it
it.
being good. Yeah, so I remember it being good, but I think given only having seen it one time, it's been a while ago since I've seen it. My gut feeling is that it's a bacon.
I
So
gotcha.
that's
This,
where I'm at.
so, little note here, this is the largest spread that you and I have had between ratings, 1.5 spread.
Yeah, yeah,
Bacon burger
100%.
to all
So
right, Memento, the one we just
Memento,
watched.
Memento. We just watched
So last
Memento.
week we
Yep.
actually had our full-fledged review of Memento, so, but we'll
Mhm.
rehash it here and actually give it a official meter review.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna go through these. The plot was fantastic. I love the time
Mm,
thing, the shift. I love the way that the story was handled with the starting at the end and then meeting somewhere in the middle. I mentioned in the review that I had like some trouble figuring out like where we were in the story, but that doesn't mean it wasn't good. That means I had problems, you know. So
yeah.
I objectively thought the story was just really, really great. Um Emotional response, I don't know. I'm iffy on this because, like, definitely it got you feeling things throughout, that's for sure. But
Mhm,
2 I have 2 problems on the emotional response. One thing is, one of the things that I was feeling was confusion, and I was
mm,
spending a lot of time trying to figure out what was happening instead of enjoying what was happening.
yeah.
Um, and I kinda like for the thoughts to be for the experience of a movie to be a bit more seamless than that. Like, I like for the author to be, like, inserting thoughts but then, like, explaining them before I have to think too deeply about them as the movie progresses, and so, it didn't really do that for me, and, like, also when the guy, like, at the very end of the movie, which is technically the middle of the movie,
Yeah.
again, like like we talked about in the review, it wasn't as, like, emotionally satisfying
Mm,
as I wanted it to be. I thought it felt a little pointless. So while the plot was good, the emotional response for the plot for me was kind of mixed.
yep.
Um, Characters, I have to admit,
Ooh, that's a weird one on this movie.
I'm a little iffy on the characters here too. I have to admit because like there you could only go because there was like so much mystery and so much pacing back and forth.
Mhm.
Ooh, it was actually really hard to develop the characters.
It
Like
was, yeah.
you really only had to develop really 3 people. The main guy, the Teddy guy, and then the
The
woman.
girl's name.
And because of the back and forth, it was hard for me to, like, keep up with the development.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So anyway, so on the characters, that was a little tough for me, although, like, the actual if I can say it this way, like, the plot applied to the main character, I thought was really solid,
Yeah,
right? And
that
I
makes
thought, "Oh,
sense.
okay, this is kind of a cool, like this is kind of a cool thing." So I think there's a lot of redemption on the character angle for me on that one. By the way, I just let me just take a time out and say, I think what we've come up with is a fantastic way to now actually talk about our movies every time. So when we're doing a movie review, we
Yeah,
can literally go down this list, right,
absolutely. Yeah, that's
of these
perfect.
things. This gives us
Absolutely.
sort of an objective criteria, so I
I
love
totally
this.
agree.
Yeah. Um, and obviously we'll take longer to talk about the details of the
Mm.
movie on
Yeah,
each of
yeah.
those
Yep,
episodes throughout,
absolutely.
you know?
I
So
agree.
that's kinda cool. So then the 4th one, the category intent. What can I say? I mean, I think it's one of those kind of
Mm.
Nolan, like, time-based. I don't know what larger category you would put it in, but it seems to me like whatever it is, it lived up to it. Uh, it did a really good job of that. So I'm going to give this one, despite what might have sounded like a pretty negative review, I'm actually gonna give this one a bacon burger. I'm gonna give
Nice.
it a bacon burger because I legitimately think, uh, I really think the movie was that good. I think there was so much redemption in the coolness of the movie, um, even for some of the things that it lacked in the emotional response and even in the characters for me. And the other reason I'm giving it that is because I fully believe that, if I had watched it as many times as you, And because you mentioned even like doing whole rewatches of the
Yeah.
movie, looking out for like particular things to piece the storyline together, which I think is almost kind of the point of it's literally part of the point of the movie, I think, is
Yeah,
that you're not
absolutely.
gonna get it in one sitting. So because of all of that, I think it's a good enough like, if it's a movie that is good enough to make you watch it again and again and again, and doesn't have the nostalgic thing like it doesn't for
Mm.
me, then I think I have to give that a bacon burger. So, it's worth every bit of that, I think.
I actually really, appreciate your rating on it despite the shortcomings that you saw in it because it really does attest to how strong of a movie it is at what it's supposed to excel at. And
Right,
this is
yeah.
you're absolutely right. This is kind of like a homework movie. Like this is a movie. I
Mhm.
almost think that maybe sometime we should do it on this one, but this is easily a movie you could show in film school. I'm sure you do it plenty of others, but in really have to watch it a few times and dissect it and really because
Yep.
there's a lot to it. But yeah, going down to more or less kind of the same as you, except with a couple things. The plot, um, yeah, again, the plot is what it's supposed to be. It's not told coherently, but it's not supposed to. So as far as
Right.
the intent of what it's supposed to be, I think that the plot is very strong. It seeks out what it's supposed to accomplish. You definitely have a definite quote unquote beginning and an end, and it all ties together at the end. So it makes sense. You can't really ask for too much more on that. Um, Emotional response, I don't know why. This movie always gets me a little bit emotionally. I think it's because I've never been obviously through any type of experience that the main character has, but there's something about that he that he has in his mind so very vividly that he's still trying to um seek justice, revenge, or whatever you want for his wife. And some moments they have is like with the woman Carrie Fisher in the movie where she says something to him about like I are you gonna remember me? And he says no, like I won't. And then she kind of grabs it. She says I think you will, and he says I'm sorry. There's just something about that scene where she has some issues, but she wants to feel some sort of connection with him, and it just kind of washes over him because to him he just has known her for 30 seconds or a couple minutes or however long that he's remembered her. So I think there's some very strong emotional parts of that movie. No, it doesn't have the same hit as like the end of Prestige and other things, but I think there's some pretty strong moments
Mhm.
in there. Category 10 again, it's Nolan's category. He hits it perfectly. And then characters, yeah, same as you. I think it's on the same line. You kind of have to watch it maybe 4 or 5 times and kind of follow each character. And I actually don't think you can really, even with doing that, you can't really get attached to the other characters like you can with just the main one. It really kind of is him. He's the
Right.
hero of the movie, and there's really no other ones for the most part. Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
it's so weird. So I've told you before, this one, Interstellar and The Prestige, can interchange on any given day on what's my favorite. I think pretty objectively, The Prestige is the top one on my list. Interstellar could have easily given a stake, but I have to be a little bit objective with it. And this is a tough one. And I love this movie. Um, I mm, I think I'm gonna have to give it a stake. I think I'm gonna have to. I
Wow.
just think it's the things that are poor, the things that are lacking in it are because of the structure it has to follow, if that makes sense. You don't
Yeah.
know much about the
Mhm.
side characters because why would you? He doesn't even know much about the side characters. And so even though you can't feel that emotional
Yeah.
attachment obviously is lacking there. So there's definitely several negatives you can point out in the movie, but they kind of have to be there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anytime I watch that movie, I come away just thinking, just kind of blown away. I kind of hate giving a steak because then I feel like Interstellar should do it, but that's my subjectivity in this moment.
Yeah.
So I'm giving it a steak.
No, I actually really appreciate that, and I think that, like, again, when I look at, like, okay, what was wrong with it? Like, plot-wise, again, the only thing and we talked about this on the review, the only thing that I think was potentially a plot hole was, like, that one scene where the woman walks out and comes back in, and it's only been, like it couldn't
Yes,
have
I
been more than
agree.
5 or 10 minutes at most. In real time, it was, like, a minute, and she walks back in, and
I agree.
he's
Yeah.
suddenly forgot. How could she have possibly known that that was gonna happen? Like, that's the only thing that
That's
I
the
could
only thing
just
for me.
like
That was the weird part. Yep.
yeah, that I could like point to and be like, "Oh, this was wrong with the movie." Like
Yeah.
everything else that like, it's not that it's wrong. Um,
Excuse me.
I think I probably could have graduated. Again, this was fresher on my mind. I think I probably could have graduated from the bacon burger to the steak um, had it done more for me emotionally. I just I just felt a little emotionally unsatisfied and too intellectually curious at the end of the movie. That's what gave it the bacon burger for me. Like by the end of a movie, I want to feel the emotional satisfaction of like
I got
yeah,
you. Yeah.
you know.
I
But
totally get that.
honestly, the emotion it did, and it was intended to invoke an emotional response at the end of the movie. But the emotional response was one of like revenge,
Yeah.
kind
It
of. It
it
like
gave you
almost like pointless revenge in a sense,
Mhm.
like objectively purposeless revenge, and I don't resonate with that emotion.
I
So,
don't resonate with revenge either, and it's weird. It almost it teeters that line where I could have easily watched that and at the end have, like, an awful feeling and be like, That movie is not worth watching. That makes me feel kinda gross or icky or whatever," but instead, it
right.
just teetered the line where at the end, it made me, like, really try to, like to try to understand and think what he's going through, and it teeters that real fine line there.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
wanna ask you something about Interstellar because it just kinda crossed my mind about it.
Oh, sure.
Let's say that they didn't so, the whole reason to refresh my just in case you forgot, the whole reason why Cooper goes and finds the NASA place and goes to space is because of gravity talking to them, which happens to be him in the future, all that. If they would
Sure.
have left out that whole part of gravity, everything like that. So let's just say he happens to stumble upon the NASA thing some other way, with his daughter. Everything else is the same though. Just take away that weird gravity thing.
Mhm.
Um, and then they get to the end, and instead of him going in the black hole, who knows, maybe he does go in the black hole, and then it instead of all that, he just pops out in space where they pick him up and everything. Do you think that would have made the movie better if they would have taken out all that?
Mm.
Because it's kind of weird. Because on the flip side, if you look at his daughter, if you remember at the end, she's trying to think of she knows something is happening, and she has the watch, and it's a pretty intense moment because her brother's coming back because she set the cornfield on fire to distract him, and everything's kind of happening at once. So it
Yeah.
definitely is evolved in kind of an emotional way too. But I wonder if the movie could objectively be made better by taking that by just removing that completely.
Think I don't think the gravity thing so I guess in a sense it'd be hard for me to divorce the gravity thing from the movie even as a thought experiment because that was like the point. I mean,
That's true.
gravitational time dilation was the point of the movie.
Yeah.
Scientifically
Yep.
was the point of the movie. So I don't think the movie without like all the effects of gravity, like I actually think that's one of the cooler um aspects of it because even without the gravitational time dilation aspect, you don't even get like the aging when they're down at the planet versus when they're back to like you don't get any of that stuff.
Well, that part I
Without
think I am definitely good with because I think that part
yeah.
was solid. But the
So you talking about
whole
using
relate
gravity as the communication device? Is that what you're
yes,
getting at?
specifically
Okay.
related to the gravity in the black hole being able to communicate with the past, specifically that portion.
Okay. Okay, then with that, I think, uh, potentially so, although I would wanna be more specific. For me, like, I actually thought the gravity part about, like, where they were seeing the messages from NASA was, like, seeing the messages and they didn't know what it meant.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
actually was kinda cool to me.
Hmm.
It's just the freaking bookshelf. I just gotta be honest, it's just the bookshelf.
Mm,
The bookshelf is so weird to me. I'm like,
gotcha.
why the weird bookshelf? And the sort of unexplained, like because there's still correct me if I'm wrong, like, they might have resolved this, but I don't think they did. There's still sort of like this unknown futuristic, like, entity that, like, supposedly, like, set up the
Apparently,
whole thing.
future humans, future us. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, right, but, like, that wasn't I don't know. The execution on the bookshelf scene, I think, was just not
that's
good.
true. Because
I just
Cooper
feel like there could have been some better way of making that connection.
'Cause the Marine that was with him, the robot, what a cool part to that movie, the robotic Marines. That was a really cool touch
Oh,
to add
yeah.
those in there. At the end, he says, like, "What are they or what is it?" And somehow Cooper just knows automatically it's us in the future. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just, how do you know that? Like, how do you know that's us? And
Yeah. Yeah, I don't
again, that whole
yeah, I
15 minutes is just kinda jarring.
yeah, exactly.
And
So, like,
and I wish it
the
was
using gravity to communicate is kinda cool, but, like, why the bookshelf? Like, I don't know.
Mhm,
Just I would've liked something a little better than that. So, anyway,
I gotcha.
like, with the weird staircase, like, it just looked weird. I don't know, just, like, it just looked weird, and it just felt weird. I don't know. So,
I
that's
gotcha.
all I can say. That's where I'm at with it,
I
so.
hate it. On a good day, it's a steak. On a bad day, it's not.
Well, I think it's a solid what did you give it? Did you give it a bacon
I give it
burger?
a bacon burger because of
Oh,
that
you
one thing.
invented the bacon burger category
Because of that,
because of that. Yeah, that's right, that's
I
right.
just hate that I can't, because I actually think I do love it to that level, but some part of me has to be somewhat objective with it, and
Yeah,
it's just a weird part
yeah.
to look at.
That's okay, yeah, it's okay to love it. It's okay to love it, but yeah, that's just a weird 15 minutes that, like, I don't again, it had to be there in one sense because of what they set up with him, like, communicating with the daughter,
Yeah,
but it just could have been done in a way that wasn't so weird.
yeah, I
That's
agree.
where it's at for me. All the other cool sciencey stuff throughout the movie just gets ruined for me at the end because of
Mhm.
that, and that's why I gave it the burger. It's obviously still a fantastic movie, like, for all the reasons we talked about.
Oh,
Like, it
yeah.
should
Yep,
definitely be watched, and it's not a bacon, and
yep.
it's light years away from a Spam. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
it's a
yeah.
fantastic movie. It's just that 15 minutes that is, like, the obligatory scene ruins it for me, so, anyway,
Yep.
that's where I'm at.
Did we agree,
So,
you had mentioned one movie that we're gonna watch, but did we agree on our next movie? It's
I
either
don't
gonna
think
be one
so.
movie that you mentioned or Hot Fuzz.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I would love to do Hot Fuzz. You told me about that, and that sounds really fun. There was another one that I had talked about recently, but I
Yeah,
can't
you
remember right
mentioned it
off
to
what it
me.
was.
Oh, it was
Um,
something, wasn't it a Ryan Reynolds movie? Maybe not. It was some
um,
popular actor now, and it was one of his early ones.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah,
Something
we'll
with,
have
it
to
was like a mystery one or something. I'll have to remember it.
a mystery one. Huh.
Or
Okay.
some type of, yeah, it
Mm.
was something like that. I forget though.
I'm sure we'll think of it.
We'll
Yeah,
remember. Oh,
absolutely.
do we even do story of the week this week? I haven't thought of one.
I
We're
didn't write
running a
one
little
down.
long here.
I thought about that. I thought, we've gone a little long, so maybe we even skip story of the week this week. I don't know,
I'm
unless
good
you
with
have
that.
something
For
to.
the first time
Okay.
ever in the history of Story World, no story of the week. So for
No
all
story of the
you
week.
wild
Yeah.
fans looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm terribly sorry,
So
but hopefully you've gotten enough value out of this episode. I've had fun. This might be one of the most fun episodes we've done.
this is a great one.
This takes the cake. So,
And next
introducing the
episode,
meter.
we'll go from the meter to getting down to some pretty important, maybe Bible stuff next week. So very
Yeah,
wide transition
yeah,
between episodes here.
absolutely. But you know what? This is why. Like, here's the thing. I don't know anybody else, but I would listen to this podcast because of exactly that.
I would listen to
Because
this podcast every day. I'd go
one
I'd do reruns.
because one week we're rating movies and ranking them by meats, and then the next one we're
Yes.
going to talk about a very serious Bible topic. Like to
Maybe,
me, this is the best podcast ever. So.
maybe we should start ranking Bible characters based on meat, based on the meat of eater.
We should objectively not do that. That would be really terrible.
Oh, okay. Okay, we'll leave
Yeah.
it at that.
Yeah, it's like, is this like maybe if we did that with Bible characters though, I think we'd have to rank them as bread, right? So 5 would be like bread of life,
Yes. Yes.
4 would be like manna from heaven, right? 3 would be like 5 loaves, 2 fishes, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Right,
I
right,
agree.
right. What would 2 be? Maybe 2 would be like the cake that Elijah ate. I don't know. The biscuit that the woman made for Elijah.
That would
And
be good.
man, I don't know what a 1 would be.
Well, the one wouldn't even be bread. It would just be the dust that the disciples brush off their feet when they leave the
Oh,
tent. It doesn't
you know what
accept
it would
them.
be? You know what it would be? It would be the bread that Satan
Satan,
offered
yes,
Jesus
over Jesus.
when he
That would
was
be it.
when he
Yep.
was tempted. When he was
Yep.
tempted, that's what it would be?
Satan bread.
Okay, we're gonna have to cut this off
We're
right
done.
here.
We're done.
Share the podcast, please. Like, let some if you're watching this or listening to this right now, you have to
You
let
had
somebody
fun.
else
You
know.
had fun with it.
Like, yeah, and you have to let somebody else know about the existence of this incredible podcast. So
And it's
anyway,
okay if it's just for the fact of making fun of us.
yeah, no, that's totally fine too. I think I'm down with
We
that.
welcome it. We welcome it.
We welcome it. We in some strange way. Yeah, we do. So okay.
All right.
God bless.
Until next
Everybody
time.
take care. It's been fun.
See ya.